Then the Angolans are fighting them. Not only here, even in Rwanda, they don't agree with the Cubans.
Hi.
Oh, dear. Hello, Sandy.
What a great beer.
Oh,
Well, great to see you. Lovely. Marvellous.
Hello, Fred. How you doing? Hello.
Look at that. Here.
My dear lad.
No, nice to see you. Great to see you. Lovely, I must say. I admire the beards.
Oh, if only.
The only clean-shaven man. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Freshly shaved.
Welcome home.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Couldn't find any
How you
more.
doing? Hi. Mike, well, congratulations to you all for getting back safely. It's marvellous to see you and in such good shape. Really, what I think we had no idea that what you were doing, of course, and we imagined you were sitting beside some strip, but in fact you were doing something very different. You were really been walking. I'd like to hear about that.
Walking.
How far did you walk?
Well, Micky kept a diary, Mrs. Doyle's diary, and when eventually we told UNITA how far we thought we had walked,
They didn't believe it
over the
anyway.
4 months, they wouldn't believe it. They said, "Well, how do you know?" And Micky said, "Because I've kept a diary every day of the hours we've marched, and we multiplied that hours, our hourly day rate by 5 kilometres,
Which was
So-
quite conservative.
which was conservative because sometimes we would march for 12 hours in a day. You know, get up at 3 and march through the cool of the morning until about 9 when the sun got hot. Then we would shade for about 4 hours, 5 hours, and then march again until about 8 in the evening. So we often did a long day's marching, and we could cover about 40 miles in a day.
Yeah, that was, 40 kilometres.
40 kilometres.
30 miles a day.
30 miles a day. Through zigzagging through bush all the time. And in the end, I think you worked out that we had walked something like 2,200 kilometres, which is, I don't know, 1,400 miles.
18, more like 1,800 miles.
Yeah, I think we're talking kilometres there because everyone else did. But if I was to show you on a map where we walked, it wouldn't look a long way because quite often they'd say, we think we've found a strip where we can bring an aircraft in. And we'd say, great, where? Oh, we can't tell you where, but it's a week's walk away. Great, let's go. So we would march for a week. And at the end of the week, we'd say, well, okay, where's the strip? And they say, oh, it's another week yet. And they'd say, but you said a week. Oh, but we've had to stop because. And what would happen is we'd look at our little map and say, well, they said we're going to march a week. Well, that's about that much on the map. Not too bad. But we never marched in a straight line. You couldn't march in a straight line. You had to keep zigzagging all the time. We would march
because the other side was there.
Yeah, exactly. We would march for a couple of days, and so we were marching south, which is where we wanted to march to, because south meant home. And every time it was much easier to march south. It was lovely to be marching towards home,
Especially with the sun on the...
with the sun on our left.
time.
On our left, when we got up, the sun was on our left, and we thought, great, we're moving south. After a couple of days, we would suddenly find that the sun was behind us in the morning. We'd say, well, why are we moving north now? Or why are we moving west?
Security.
And they say, Cubans are over there. We've just been told there's a group of Cubans, and we've got to move around them. And all the time we were moving and zigzagging around an MPLA force or around a Cuban force, and so we were zigzagging. And if I was to show you on the map where we'd walk, it wouldn't look a long way. But if I was to actually do that on the map, zigzag, it added up to 2,500 kilometres.
You must have begun to feel like Stanley looking for Livingston.
Well, in the end, it was extraordinary because Micky hit on the secret. I mean, of how to march comfortably. He was bitten badly on his wrist.
Just by a fly.
Yeah, flies. We can't tell you about the flies. Unbelievable. But he was bitten badly, so he took his watch off because he couldn't wear it because of the bite. And in the end, we found that the secret of marching was to take your watch off, because the boredom of marching. It was a boredom of marching. I've rebuilt my house a million times, and I built a boat, and I've done and
redesigned houses.
He's redesigned his garden, and because there's nothing else to think about.
Yeah.
And all the time you're looking at your watch, or another hour to go, or we've only been going 10 minutes. God, this feels like an hour. In the end, we took our watch off, and you then moved in African time. You moved. You started to march when the sun came up. You stopped when you were hungry. or when it was hot. You started again when it was cool and you weren't hungry, or you stopped when you got to a waterhole. In the end, we were marching from one waterhole to the next waterhole, and in the end, it became much easier to march because we forgot about our own restrictions of time. You know.
Did you ever run into the MPLA or the Cubans?
We ran into them very early, and as it turned out, it was the beginning of the offensive, which started about 3 days after we'd arrived. In fact, when we left this little landing strip, a place called Mapupa, right in the south, 3 days after we'd left, the 50 Cuban tanks came in, and then we realized the offensive was on. And on our way in a lorry, there was to begin with, in the so-called Free Angola, they were using these small lorries, and we were in the back of the lorry going to meet Savimbi. And about 6 in the morning, suddenly, boom, everything was happening, the tracers, and there was explosions, and we were ambushed, MPLA ambush, and a hell of a lot of bullets came into the truck because we counted them later. But only 2 guys were hit. It was unbelievable.
And luckily none of you.
Well, we were sitting on 3 drums, 40 gallons each
we were in the front.
of petrol, and we learnt that a missile had hit the ground about 15 feet from the lorry. So we were very lucky. That was the only time that we actually came into contact with the MPLA Cubans, because the UNITA were desperate to keep us safe, and we thought it was for our own protection. Of course, it was for their protection. We were learning so much about them, where their landing strips were, where their troop placements were. We were learning about their radio system. So
they didn't want you to be captured.
If we were captured by the MP, I mean, I remember one morning I said to Chindonde, one of the guys, one of the colonels who was there, I said, look, we've had enough. We've been marching with you now for 6 weeks. We're getting nowhere. I don't care about Savimbi. I don't care about UNITA. Micky was very sick at the time. I said, we want to get out. Just get us out. And I said, if you won't take us, we'll go on our own. And he said, we are encircled by Cubans, he said, and MPLA. If you march 5 kilometers south from here, you will be captured. And if you are captured, they'll shoot you, because you'll be mercenaries. So the choice is yours. And I said, Chindonde, there's no choice. We'll stick with you. Wow. So we really had no. And you know, it may seem, you said Stanley Livingston, it may seem stupid that we spent so long, but we had no choice. You see, once we'd landed and once we'd hooked into UNITA, we had to go where they went. If they said you march 500 miles north, we had to march 500 miles north. If they suddenly said, no, now we go west, we had to go west. We had no choice. We were virtually prisoners. We couldn't have survived in the bush on our own.
No.
Not one, because we didn't know where the waterholes were, and we had to move back with the waterholes. I mean, a day's marching in the sun is lovely, but there, you know, it's barren land, and you can't march without water. So you had to march by waterholes. We didn't know where they were. There were lots of wildlife, a tremendous number of elephants. And we couldn't have marched without being attacked by elephants. I mean, the night before last,
the hyena.
we were not attacked, but the hyenas came into where we were staying, and so we couldn't have survived because of the wildlife. We couldn't have survived because of the MPLA. And if we'd got south, there'd have been Swappo, you know, who were fighting the South Africans, would have been hit by Swappo. So we couldn't have survived on our own. We had to stick with UNITA.
By the way, you said that you were a bit sick from time to time. You've all lost weight, obviously, haven't you?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Great.
What about the actual physical hardships? How did you cope, Micky?
It was okay, except for the actual marching through the midday sun. If we could march from early morning, sometimes 3:30 in the morning, they'd get us up from under our tree where we were. But when we'd stop about 10 and try to rest a little, apart from the flies. But once we started to march through the afternoon, that got me at, and I collapsed once.
You mean the monotony of it?
Oh,
no,
the
physical
thing of trying to march through this sun, which is directly overhead, and the monotony of it was absolutely unbearable. Where you're marching along, and all you can do is look at the feet of the person in front of you, because if you don't watch the feet, you'll fall over a stump, and that knocks the person behind you. And the monotony of trying to, not only you try not to count the steps in front of you, but you physically say 1, 2, 3, 4, and you find yourself up to 1,000. You think, what the devil are you doing counting? Stop, and just try not to count and things like this.
And you had trouble with your feet too, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a slight bit of trouble. I lost all my toenails in the end because they were slightly moth-eaten, as they would say, and they removed them for me. But it was okay after that, I'm afraid.
Tom, what did you find the worst part?
The worst thing was the flies, physically the flies. I think all of us, you had 3 types of flies. You had a very small fly, which try to get in your eyes, in your ears, up your nose, in your mouth, and that was there from, well, first light till the sun went down. There was another fly which was like a house fly, which buzzed all the time, and there was a big brown fly which was about 1 inch long, which used to, oh God, I'd give you a bite, I'll tell you. Leaping up with these bites, and that was the worst thing. Physical, that was the worst thing, the fly.
Snakes,
and that's,
wild animals?
We had, yeah,
Scorpions.
Scorpions, oh God.
We killed, you won't believe it, and nobody ever will.
We kept saying this every night. We said, they won't believe us. They won't
We
believe
killed, in 2 nights, in one spot, we killed 27 scorpions. And on the first...
And one got away.
And one got away,
Too slow.
On the first night, we killed what?
13.
13 scorpions in the first half hour. He went, having done it, he went to his sleeping bag and curled up on it is a cobra.
Baby cobra, I must add, but still a cobra.
Still a cobra.
And a few nights later, we, by the fire, these 2 had gone to their bags, and I was just better get them out, and suddenly Mick
Sleeping bags, we might add.
said, and Mickey said, "Hey, hold it, watch out!" And I stopped, and in front of me was a scorpion. So no problem.
Big
I
fella.
reached back to get something to hit it with, and as I went to hit it, I suddenly heard, "Tss," and I was like this, and I suddenly turned, and a snake on the right of me, kind of doing this, just waiting to go for me.
Cobra?
I don't know what it was.
It was nasty anyway.
It was nasty, and so I didn't know what to do. Kill the scorpion or kill the snakes, and killed them both in the end.
Yeah,
By
the reason
Tom,
I got
yes,
rid of
why
mine.
no beard?
The reason I got rid of mine was that I couldn't stand anymore. The little beasties and ants and flies, and I cracked in the end. I borrowed an old razor and I tore my face to bits in cold water. But I said, I've got to get rid of it. It's just driving me mad. It's starting to go. Yeah, I couldn't shave the stone. It was like that.
Did you lose a lot of weight?
Oh, we all lost a lot of weight. I'm what, 11.5 stone now. I mean, when I came out.
How much did you lose?
Well, I was 13.5 when I came out. I was getting too heavy. I really was getting a bit worried about my weight. And
It's a good keep fit course.
But you're all looking very fit. One last
no booze
question.
for 4 months. No booze.
That must have been painful.
Was to begin with the first week, but after that we just forgot about it.
Did you expect that plane to come in yesterday?
And I was looking at the sky to the north, which is where their plane would come. And suddenly I looked, and there was a jet coming in. I mean, unbelievable. And suddenly I saw this jet. And the soldiers, of course, about 20 soldiers, hadn't been told, didn't know it was coming. And they all suddenly rushed out with their guns. And I said, I went berserk. I just leapt in the air and said, it's ours, it's ITN, jumping up and down. And they turned and saw me laughing and realized that it wasn't an MPLA jet, because the only jets that fly in Angola are MPLA MiGs.
Yeah. Were they going to open fire?
And they were just about to open fire on this thing. It was only 100 feet above the runway, coming in very slow, looking at the runway. The pilot was looking to see if it was safe to land, and he was coming in very slow. And they were just about to open up on it. And thank heavens I went stupid. And otherwise, it could have been a very, we could still be there.
But he was down and you were off in how quickly?
Oh, 10 minutes.
10 minutes and we were away. And I'll probably never see the pilot again, but an incredibly brave man to bring, because he had to overfly Angola and to land on that strip when he knew there were Cubans and tanks and ground-aware missiles and MiGs around. Incredibly brave. And he came in, we went into it, and we were away, and before we knew where we were drinking beer on our way home.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Well, that's terrific. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you for getting us out.
And thanks, David Nicholas.
That's right.
The thing we didn't quite understand was exactly who would be at the other end and what would be waiting for us. We didn't know if there were going to be other aeroplanes around or if there was going to be any ground fire. This was our big problem. We were assured that if we went in at dusk, the MiGs would be returning to their base because they can't see very well at night, so they stay there. But we didn't quite know where the missiles were or if there were any. But we have been told that there were some around the area. And the actual airstrip we landed at was very rough, to say the least. It was almost like a ploughed field. When we came down to the airfield, we saw a river which we knew that was near to it, and there was a ruin of a town, which again we knew was near the airfield. And our Portuguese guide and the captain were looking out to the left of the aeroplane, and I was looking out to the right-hand side. And just then I caught a glimpse of a pale green patch. And this pale green patch was in fact the airfield. So I nudged them quickly and said, "There it is." And we banked off to the right and we flew along the airfield, and we saw these lots of little black figures on it. And we thought, well, one of them must be Mike somewhere down there. I wonder if he knows we're coming. And I said to the captain, to Roy, should we make a quick look at the airfield? He said, no ways, in and out. So we just turned around and we came in. And as we landed, the UNITA chappies were fleeing the airfield in front of us. And as I opened the door and went down the stairs, I saw the two little glints in the bushes and suddenly realized that somebody was pointing rifles at me. And I thought, well, what do? Do I jump back in the aeroplane and close the door? Or do I stay where I am and freeze, or do I run away? So I was a brave person. I ran away, and I ran around to the other side of the aeroplane, and there were the three chappies. We were out 5 minutes on the ground, and we turned around, and as we took off, it began to get very dark, and we realized then that we had just timed it absolutely perfectly. And Roy and I were up on the flight deck, and you chaps were down the back, and there was a little bit of noise going on. And I said to Roy, we've actually done it. And we smiled at each other and we said, yeah, we've actually done it. We've made it. And we looked round at the back and we saw you guys sitting there, and I said to Roy, I'll go and give them a beer now. So we went and I pulled open the thing and I said, would you like a beer? And Mike said, well, I don't think so. I said, well, I got Amstel, I got Lion, I got Castle, what would you prefer? And they said, well, that was it. And the beer was finished, the scotch was finished, the gin was finished, the brandy was finished, the aeroplane was in an absolute state, but the three guys were really enjoying themselves down the back there and had a wonderful time.